everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Dating Made Simple here on the It's Just Dinner podcast. I'm your host, Tom Robinson, and sitting right across from me, my co-host, compadre, Bob Walls.
Well, Tom, I'm not quite directly across from you.
You're at an angle.
I'm at an angle from you here because we have the lovely Macy with us.
She's joining us
She's
today.
joining us today as a co-host on the big show.
She's have become a regular.
I'm a Coco now.
It was been by audience demand.
Welcome,
that we have
welcome, Macy.
her on the show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. And it's always good to be back here after a break. It's nice to be back in the studio.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
great. So we're very happy to be here. Macy lined up a great guest for us today.
Yes, she did.
Well, Dan is the real show. He's going to be the real star of the
He
show.
is going to be the star. This is Dan Silverman, and he is the head of the Miami Matchmaker and housed in Miami, right? Is that where you're living, Dan?
Yeah, I'm here right now. I mean, I'm a traveler.
But
My
it's
home
snowing
base is
here,
Austin and Miami.
It's snowing here, you know that,
Where are y'all at?
in Utah, up in the mountains.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah,
y'all-
freezing cold here.
I'm so jealous that you're in Miami. What's the weather like over there?
It's like 72 degrees outside.
Last night
Yeah,
How
really,
unfortunate.
really tough
I
there.
walked home in a blizzard and I came home with snow frozen on my eyebrows and I had to lay down for 45 minutes because it was so bad. I'm jealous.
Nothing stopping y'all from jumping on a plane and coming on down here. I'll show you guys a great time.
That's
Trust
true.
me.
Thanks. We'll be there tonight.
I like
Good.
All right, great. Awesome.
I like what
Take a salsa dancing.
it says on his website. He says that his specialty is coaching the invisible nice guy.
The invisible nice
Yeah,
guy.
and I think we have a lot of those nice guys. He said he wants to give them an abundance of options, protect them from being taken advantage of, and find amazing partners
Wow.
that love him for who he is.
That's now, Dan. How do you define the invisible nice guy?
All right. So that's basically your typical nice guy, the guy that's completely invisible to women. And those guys that are invisible are most likely to make really great boyfriends and husbands. Problem is they don't get noticed over the douchebags and the narcissists. And so what I do is I teach the nice guys how to be just toxic enough to get the attention to get past the first date and get seen and get noticed and actually develop attraction from the women so that way they could actually have a shot at being in a relationship.
So why is that? And we've heard other guests say this before that, let's just say online, for example, is that the nice guys just get swiped through. Nobody's looking at them. But then you get like the really good looking kind of douchebaggy guy and he gets all kinds of matches. Why? And then it happens in person. Why is that?
Well, they know how to make women feel emotions, and nice guys, they like to play it safe and they don't like to push buttons and they don't want to offend women. So when you have a guy who's a really empathetic person and very sweet and honest, honorable, they're far less likely to play the games that are necessary to spark interest from women. Because women are not going to be attracted to a guy based upon the relationship he has with his mother and how he feels about cats and how good he is with kids. That's not what initially gets a woman's interest. That's what might keep a woman over a long period of time and make her feel safe with him. But that's not what's initially going to generate that interest.
Mm.
And we live in a culture where it's basically a swipe culture. If you don't make that first impression right off the bat, you're very unlikely going to see that woman again. You have to be able to trigger emotion.
Just a little background. Dan, you've been working as a dating coach, matchmaker for the last 20 years down in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes, sir.
we're working with a lot of clients, most of them male.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back and forth saying who I work with the most, but I am notorious and known for in my community for working with the invisible nice guy, particularly doing infield work. Because I don't know many other people that do that. I literally take men out into the field and have them practice approaching women and teach them how to do it. How to approach, build attraction, not get friend zone, not be weird or icky, and getting numbers and dates.
Okay, so explain that really quick. So you go with guys out into the field, you coach them
Yeah.
up a little bit, and then you let them go out and see how they do it, and then come back and decompress, or what do you do?
Yeah, what does that look like specifically?
Yeah,
Like, sitting at a restaurant? Are you like at the grocery store? Like, what are you guys doing?
Okay, so yeah, and that's a good question. It's like everybody is different. So I may have someone who's more extroverted, someone who's more introverted. I may have a guy who approaches a lot, has no issues approaching. He just sucks at it. And then I have guys that are terrified to even go and say hi. So depending on the client that I'm working with, that's when I'm going to focus on those areas. So like your typical guy is usually going to have some form of approach anxiety or social anxiety. And so the first part of what I do is I take them out into usually more of a daytime environment for guys like that. And the reason why I do that is because it's less intense. And oftentimes you'll see women walking around by themselves. So if you're doing a daytime environment where there's coffee shops, bookstores, malls, maybe a street festivals are the best in my opinion. I love going to those because you do see oftentimes women by themselves or with very few friends. And I have them practice certain exercises that warm them up, that get them comfortable simply socializing. I don't want to put so much pressure on men in the very beginning, like you have to approach and get the number and get the date. At first, it's just about getting comfortable with approaching and starting conversations with strangers. Once I get them really comfortable with that, then I start to actually teach them different ways of opening or actually starting conversations and how to turn it from stranger to stranger type conversation to more man to woman, where there's flirting going on and there's sexual tension and there's playful banter that leads to more of a romantic connection.
Wow, this is like
Usually I'll demonstrate first because they don't believe that it actually can work and they're terrified of it. And I show them how easy it can be. And after demonstrating that to them, then I have them do it. I want them to actually practice doing it, performing it. This is all a performing art. I know you said you really like the whole theatrical aspect about my background.
yeah.
Well, pickup, cold approaching, socializing is a performing art because you are presenting yourself in a way that is both entertaining and fascinating and makes people want you to stick around. When you're doing cold approach or when you're doing pickup, you want people to want you to be there. You don't want them trying to get rid of you.
Interesting.
Yes. So I'm like so curious. What was one of those exercises look like?
Okay, so let's say we got a guy who's never approached a woman his entire life and he's absolutely terrified of it. Let's just take like your very typical, super socially awkward guy. The first thing I teach him is I call it the newbie mission. And all the newbie mission is you basically say hi to everybody that you're walking by, like on the street or wherever you're on your way to. And you don't have to stay in conversation. You simply make eye contact and say hi and continue walking. You're welcome to stop and chat if you want. But that's extra credit because they don't want to push these guys too hard. It's almost like going to the gym. I want them to be challenged, but not so much that they're never going to want to do it again. But I don't want it to be so easy that they're not expanding their comfort zone. So level one easy mode is simply saying hi as you walk. Then they might ask for directions and get comfortable with that. Then they might ask an opinion open. And finally, the final stage is where they're actually walking up for the sole purpose to deliver a direct opener where it's like, hey, I thought you're really cute. I wanted to meet you real quick. What's your name? That's generally the hardest thing for a guy like that who has a severe social anxiety to do because he's putting his ego on the line. And the beautiful thing about this whole thing is it really does develop self-confidence and courage because it's like when you're going in, you're so terrified as these guys are so terrified of how the women are going to perceive them. But what you're ultimately aiming for and what true confidence really is not giving a crap what women think of you. You're just presenting yourself as the best way that you possibly can. Whoever bites, great, you take it somewhere. And if they don't, you move on to the next one. And that's the most efficient way to actually do cold approach or trying to meet women in real life.
That is so cool. And none of the people that we've talked to on our podcast
Right. I've done that.
have
That's
done
true.
that. Yeah, that is so interesting.
Now, no,
How our ancestors picked up women.
there you go.
We didn't have internet back in like the 1400s.
That's
You
the
actually had to
reason-
walk
right,
up to
that
a
is-
woman and talk to her.
That's how we used to do it back in the old days.
I used to do it.
Now,
back
why do
in
you
the
think
old
it is,
days.
Dan, that men have become somewhat dysfunctional in their inability to do that on their own? What happened that men suddenly need a coach to tell them how to do what we kind of did normally back in the 50s and 60s?
There's many things to it, but if I was going to name like the top three, I would say social media and online dating has made it so that you don't really have to do that anymore. And the other thing is we lack strong father figures nowadays that teach men how to actually pick up and meet women.
true.
A lot of us come from broken families or absentee fathers or weak fathers that don't teach this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Wow, that is another take that we have never heard here.
No.
Two things in 2 minutes that were brand new on the It's Just Dinner podcast. This is
Yeah, Dan.
I'd also say that we're not socialized that way either. So a lot of masculinity is considered toxic. And I would also say that we don't really teach this in schools either. Like we learn a lot of things in schools, just not really a whole lot of useful things, like how to write a checkbook or how to actually meet your future wife.
Mm.
And I'll tell you what, when I was a kid back in the old days at a temple where I used to attend, see, I was raised Jewish. We actually had something called cotillion that taught us how to
Right.
go about the formal process of dating, how you introduce yourself to the mother, the father, having a woman hold your arm while you're standing on the street and the reasons behind it, so you could protect her from the running cars that go by. And so we learned all that stuff as a kid, and I wish that was still around because I haven't heard of it. I think that would be a great idea to teach us how to treat each other. That would prevent a lot of dysfunction.
I love that.
Nice.
I've only seen cotillion on like TV shows. I just thought it was, I don't know what I thought it was, but I always wanted to do it because it looks kind of super fun. And so I'm a little jealous. You got to do it. Okay. So I have a question for you as well. So when
Yeah.
these guys are approaching and you want to, I feel like a lot of the times I'm having that feeling where I'm like, okay, can you like leave now? Like, how do you tell a story or like present yourself in a way that's not cringy, or how do you tell a story where people are engaged?
Okay, that's like a huge question, and I could teach a 2-day seminar on that. So I'll just give you a very general answer. Because storytelling is an art form in of itself. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much to storytelling, but the core elements that need to be in a storytelling is that it's emotionally engaging. So I always say that you're not building attraction with women, you're not building comfort with women, you're boring her. If you're not making her feel an emotion, you're doing it wrong. Your conversations, including storytelling, need to be emotionally stimulating. If guys can just get around that concept when they're talking, it's not about exchanging information, it's about exchanging emotions. Women are very much into how the conversation makes them feel, not what they know about the guy, but how what they're saying is making them feel. So that's the first aspect of it. The second is that when you're telling a story, it's almost like you're painting a picture. You want to use as many senses as you can as you're describing a story. You can go into specific details about things. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So what I mean by that is, what do you see in the story? What did it feel like? How cold was the air? What are the visions that you can paint as a picture in that? And the third thing that I always like to describe is, you never want to put yourself down. You never want to put yourself down in a story. It should always present you in a light where it shows that you have some self-confidence and you have some value. So a lot of guys will do self-deprecating stories.
Yeah.
Women don't want to be with a loser. They want to be with a winner. And oftentimes men will like put themselves down because they think being humble is attractive. But I'll tell you what, I mean, whenever you're speaking to women about their exes and who they were like in love with, there's always an ex that was a narcissist, right? They make up one, like 3% of the population, yet every single woman has an ex narcissist. There's something about that. The thing about narcissists is that they have an overabundance of confidence when they're talking about their stories. We can take that element of being a narcissist without the abuse and simply speak stories where we're showing our confidence or capabilities without bragging, of course, but we're showing a higher version of ourselves rather than trying to be humble and putting ourselves down.
So what if they were to share a story that is kind of embarrassing? Like maybe they pooped their pants or something like that, but they shared it. Are they able to share that in a light that's still like, haha, that's funny that happened? Is that still okay? Or is that self-deprecating?
Well, think about it. I mean, talking about poop, you think that's going to allow for romance and emotional? It's not a very sexy topic. It's not a sexy topic, but I get your point. So the only time I would say any kind of self-deprecation can work, because this is the exception to the rule. This is an art form more than a science. The only time I would say any sort of self-deprecating humor works is when it's obvious that it's not true, or she already thinks that you're amazing. So, for example,
Okay.
I'll give you an example. If I'm on a date, right, and I'm chatting about my life or whatever, and the woman says, "Oh, do you say that to every girl that you go on a date with?" And that lets me know that she thinks I'm a player, right?
Yeah.
If she thinks that I'm a player, or she thinks that I'm with a lot of girls, it would actually be good game for me to say something self-deprecating by saying something like, "Well, I don't talk to women at all. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm so nervous to be on this date right now. What women?" Right? I might say that as a joke. It's obvious that it's wrong. It's self-deprecating humor, but it's obvious that it's wrong. Or I may say something, "What women? You're the only one that ever existed. I don't know what you're talking about." Right? Obvious that I do have experience with women, but I'm going out of my way and exaggerating, saying she's the only woman I'm talking to, right? But that it's obvious that it's not right, if that's wrong, that I have a lot of experience. And therefore, that's kind of cute, that's kind of funny, and it's not lowering my value in the conversation.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Genius.
Yeah.
I had
Thank
some
you.
Seriously, these 20 years have done you quite well.
Yes.
He knows his stuff, everybody. He knows his stuff.
Okay, I
I'm
have a
very strategic about this stuff.
okay, I have a good question then based off some of the stuff that I looked at on your site was you talk about friend zoning, and we get this all the time. And there's guys and girls who say, I am constantly being friend zoned. I can't get out of the friend zone. And I go out with this girl and I get in the friend zone, or I go out with this girl and she puts me in the friend zone. How do we help these guys? How do we help them understand that there is a way out of that?
All right, that's a really good question because that's pretty much like the common question I get. If as a man you're getting friend zone, it's because you're not building enough attraction and you're only building comfort. So there's two things that we're always building with women when we're on a date or we're trying to make something romantic. We're either building attraction or we're building comfort. When we're building attraction, we're lowering comfort. When we're building comfort, we're lowering attraction. And if you get to a point where you're building all attraction and no comfort, you get seen as the player who can't be taken seriously because all he just wants to use me and I'm going to reject him anyway because there's no point. Nothing long term will ever come out of this. She knows
Right.
that you're not going to take her seriously. But the opposite is where you're building all comfort and no attraction. You get friends that, oh, he's fun and he's a great guy and he's super sweet, but I just didn't feel it for you. I just see you like a brother. You're not building any attraction. So it's important that we do both. So nice guys are very good at building comfort. They feel safe with them. They feel like they can be alone with them and they'll be respectful. They know that they can take them around and they're not going to be weird, but they're just not sexy. So we have to show elements of that bad boy trait or the elements of a guy who is attractive to women while at the same time incorporating those elements of the nice guy. That way we can build attraction and the comfortable aspects of you will turn you into this great guy that she wants to actually date and be in a long-term relationship with.
So how do you build that attraction? What makes it different than building comfort?
Okay, so I like to think of attraction, it's more like starting the fire. Comfort is more like a slow roast. So you're building something over time. Like say you're cooking, something you're building over time. It's basically a long period of time without like destroying that comfort. But attraction, it's presenting yourself as a sexual being and that you are interested in her romantically and you're showing the confidence to do it. You're showing assertiveness. You could and get away with being a jerk, but you're choosing not to. So, for example, teasing a woman, qualifying her to see if she's actually somebody you want to see again, rather than you trying to demonstrate that you're a catch, you place pressure on her to demonstrate that she is a catch. Or any sort of concept where you're challenging her, you're getting under her skin, you're showing that you're not fully won over, you're interested, but you're not fully won over. You're showing yourself as a guy who has lots of options. Because let's face it, women really, in general, I'm generalizing here, I'm not saying all women, but in general, most women like a guy that can get other women. And elements of that in your personality will build attraction. So, for example, a lot of guys are afraid to tease a woman. So, say, for example, she starts giggling and she spills her water while she's giggling. You'd be like, see, I can't take you anywhere embarrassing you like that. Right. You might say that with a playful smile on your face. Most guys, nice guys, won't want to say it because they don't want to offend or put a woman down, but you're just doing it playful. This is something funny. Right. Or maybe, for example, the guy will ask her if she can cook. And she says, no, I don't. I usually order Uber Eats because I have to work so much. Like, I had such a crush on you until you said that. I don't know if it's going to work out.
That's good.
Say you're
So,
willing to
now
say things like that.
how do you, they're stuck in the friend zone. How do you get out? Is there a way out?
So there is, but it requires you to basically not play the game with her anymore. Once you are in the friend zone,
Why
you are
is this
there.
mind blowing? I feel like I've talked about this so much and like we're over the game. Why are we still playing the game?
Listen, you're either playing the game or the game plays you. You have no choice.
Fair.
I've never met a woman in my life that doesn't play games. Not in my entire life, including the ones that say they don't play a game because their natural hardwiring as a woman is to filter to make sure that you're not some dumbass. They want a strong man. That's what women are naturally, biologically hardwired to do is to filter the guys who actually are strong from the guys that actually aren't because men lie, right? So women have to test. And that's what game playing is. Women are always testing you, whether subconsciously or consciously. So you are either playing the game or the game is being played on you. That's why we call it getting lucky, because it requires a significant amount of luck in order to get with a woman, unless you've got skill.
Mhm. Mm. Okay, so you have to play you said you don't play the game or you do play the game?
You don't.
You
Yeah.
do play the game, but you want to get so good at the game that you don't have to think about it anymore. It becomes naturalized.
Mm.
That's where you want to get to because there are men that are just total naturals at this, and those are usually the bad boys. Those are usually the players, the guys that naturally get it. They don't have to think about it. They just know. So you could be the nice guy that doesn't get anything, learn game and do it so much that you practice it and it becomes a part of you where you don't have to think about it. Playing thoughts. Sorry?
Does this work for girls on the
What?
other side as well? While we're
Okay, and that's another great question. Game is very different for a woman. So game for a man is getting the woman, acquiring women, getting her attracted to you. But for women, game is keeping the man around, making the guy see you as long-term potential. That's female game. It's very easy for a woman to simply exist and get attraction from men. They don't have to do a thing. They just come pre-built attracts. But it's much harder for a woman to keep a guy around, keep him, and also screen and filter for a quality guy. That's female game.
okay, so how do you keep a guy? Keep him attracted.
Okay, that's a totally different subject of what
We go
we
next.
Sorry, I know.
Here-
Sorry, I was
here we go with
No,
the-
no, it's fine.
Yeah.
I know.
He
I'm
was
so
the-
sorry.
The rest
That's
of us
fine.
don't.
We'll freestyle
Yeah.
it.
It's fine.
No, because the women need this information too. This is not very much. We're taught the total opposite. So I like to say, what would like something that would make you a good mother? Are you nurturing? Are you empathetic? Or do you make his life easier? These are simple things that a lot of women just simply don't do. They don't know how to do thoughtful things. They don't do things that warm a guy's heart that demonstrate that you're somebody that would be a great for relationship. When you go out with them socially, are you respectful? Are you modest with him and you make him look good in front of his friends? When you meet his parents or his friends, do you come off as someone he could be proud of? It's not going to give a crap about your career, how much money you make, or your academia and all the accolades. Anything that would impress a woman is very unlikely going to impress a man. What impresses a man is everything that a man does that doesn't impress a woman, like the relationship with your mother, right? The fact that you like puppies and that you're sweet and thoughtful. Women really don't give a shit about that with men, but men very much care about the women when we're looking at the long term potential. It's like one of the only things I would say that men do subtly where women do outright. Women will reject outright and friend zone you and say there's nothing that's going to happen because they reject you. But men will reject you relationship wise.
Now, Dan, we've talked about
Ah.
this before on our podcast that one of the dysfunctional nature of online dating is that it has become kind of known as a hookup. And there's a lot of people who are very uncomfortable with meeting someone and having an intimate relations with them without getting to know them. And so a lot of people just said, well, I'm not going to date. Are you finding that with your clients? Are there some of them that are just not comfortable with that? And so they choose not to pursue dating online?
You're going to get that even if you meet men out in the field or out in the real world. I think that if you are somebody that wants to take some time getting to know somebody, I don't see anything wrong with that.
So let's take one of your clients here. Do you advise them and do you coach them on how to create their online profile? Do you go through all that with them to see how they're presenting themselves online? Because online is becoming
Mhm.
the most common way that people meet other people. What advice do you give them on how to present themselves in their online profile?
Sure, I can answer some of that. I would say it's not my specialty, but I definitely know a lot about it. Obviously, I have to the industry
Right.
I'm in. I think what a lot of guys do is they basically make a very average profile. It's very important that when they're posting any photos, they need to make sure that those photos demonstrate a really fun lifestyle. And so when you're posting a photo, you want to show a really fun lifestyle, something that a woman could see herself being a part of and that she would have a good time going out with you. So rather than just some photos of yourself, which of course you do need some and you need some things to really present yourself well, dress well, look good, have your photos edited and looking nice. You definitely want a headshot, you want a body shot, you want to demonstrate though that you have a lifestyle. So you want to show yourself maybe at a hobby that you really enjoy doing, and it's a good photo of you. You want to show maybe you're presenting live at like a presentation of something that you do that you're talented at. Maybe if you're karaoke, you have a video of you singing really, really well. These are demonstrations of competence and lifestyle that would really be attractive. However, what I also say, because I'm much more of an in-person guy, I say that online dating should be definitely used as a tool, but it's more of a supplement. I think that the best way to meet people is to do it in person. And the reason why is because it is much harder to lie in person. And chemistry exists when you two meet each other in person. That's where the real chemistry happens. And third, especially for guys, if you're an average looking guy, you're not 6 foot tall, you're not jacked, you're just a very normal looking guy, you will get far hotter women in person with your personality than you ever would online with your photos because you are only using your photos. 90% of it is your photos when you're doing online dating. And if you're not 6 feet tall and you're not super good looking, you're not going to attract, physically at least, the quality of women that you would in person if you were able to actually build attraction with those women in person you're right in front of them.
So what types of locations do you typically go to meet someone in person in today's world?
So all those places are also, I would suggest, as supplements. You're not going to specifically go there to meet somebody. However, you should always be ready and prepared for the opportunity to meet someone when you go to this place.
Mm.
I have that in your mind that you could potentially meet somebody. I met an ex-girlfriend at a J.C. Penney, and I dated her for 5 years, but
Mm.
I
Wow.
you obviously didn't expect to meet her there, right?
Mm.
However, if you're specifically going out for the purposes of meeting somebody, especially with your audience, these are probably people who are looking to get in a relationship. I highly recommend you go to events that are going to attract people who share similar values as you, or at the very least, similar interests. Interest is not as important as values, but oftentimes certain hobbies will attract people with very similar values. So, for example, if you go to, like, say you're much more on the traditional side. If you go to a swing dancing thing in Miami, that's just about the only place you'll meet traditional minded people. Or maybe there's some sort of cooking thing that's going on. You can meet folks there. I really like to go to festivals. Me personally, I really like Latin women and I love dancing. I find that dancers tend to be far more physically affectionate and communicate non-verbally more. And I really vibe with that. So I'll often go to like salsa festivals or
Mhm.
I'll go to Latin nightclubs where they're going to be dancing. You actually go to the dance, and a lot of the people who go there actually educate themselves formally on Latin dancing, like bachata or salsa. So you actually meet a community of people even if you don't meet your girlfriend there or someone that you could meet who could potentially turn into a date, you're meeting like-minded folks who you could make friends with and you can build a social circle where you can meet their friends and everybody can come
Right.
out and meet each other. So
Yeah.
I think it's very good. The way our ancestors did is they joined social circles that would naturally attract the kind of people that you're looking for. So that's what I would recommend.
Now,
I
do you
love
go to
that.
those things with your buddies or do you go alone?
Both.
Both.
I travel a lot. I'm always on the road. So I go to these things. Well, I used to go to these things a lot by myself. I have a girlfriend now. But when I was single, I would oftentimes go and meet and meet women out at these places. And it's great because now you got a different friend in every single area code wherever you want to go. Maybe even a place to crash if you ever want to come back and visit.
That's incredible. Okay, so could you give me an example of a conversation that might go down for like a cold, like, hey, I think you're cute, kind of we're at the grocery store. Like, how does that conversation go?
Okay, and that's another good question. I get that a lot. So there's two styles of openers. You have your indirect and you have your direct. There are pros and cons to both of them. Personally, I like to do direct if the woman is by herself. And that's usually the advice that I give to new people who haven't really studied game formally because it's the easiest. It doesn't require as much game, but it requires balls. It requires moxie. It requires you to be confident. And that's something that newbies really have to work on is getting confident. And so with direct, you're basically presenting yourself as, hey, my objective here is to see if this can turn into something romantic. Hey, I thought you were really cute. I wanted to meet you real quick. Let's say it's a grocery store, right? You'd be like, you're definitely the cutest girl I've seen in the vegetable section, something like that. And you say, what's your name? Or you just walk up and chat and say, I thought you're really cute. I know it's totally random, but I just wanted to meet you real quick. I thought you were real cute. Someone will be open to it, some will not. So the positive of that is if it goes well, you know it's on because a woman is very likely going to reject you right away if she doesn't like you. So
Right.
it's like kind of like an all or nothing sort of approach. And you don't have to turn it into a flirtatious conversation. You don't have to transition because it starts off as romantic interaction right off the bat. And if
Good
it
enough.
works, it
Yeah.
works very powerfully. Yeah, but the problem is that you're giving her a very small window to decide whether or not she wants to go somewhere. If you're not her physical type, there's anything wrong with your vibe, she's going to auto reject you because she hasn't had enough time to really get to know you. Since where the indirect is, where you're not coming right off the bat hitting on her. You're coming in there, basically starting a conversation with whatever reason. So, say for example, you catch her looking at different kinds of almond milk, and you see her pick one up and be like, I've never tried that one. I was thinking about doing a new one. What do you think about that? Right? That might be your opener. It's what you would call maybe an opinion opener, but you're not outright hitting on her. That requires more skill because the conversation could just end after she gives you the answer, right? You have to be able to take talking about that milk into a flirtatious conversation, which requires more skill. So say she says, "Oh, you're really like this is very sweet." I'm like, "No, I can't do any of that sweet stuff. That stuff is gross. It's gonna rot your teeth out. Don't pick that." Right. So now I'm starting to create a more stimulating conversation, right? But you have to get to a place where you're turning it into a direct conversation at some point. All right. And the good thing about that is that you get to buy some time where you can kind of demonstrate a little bit of personality. You can kind of get to know each other a little bit before you begin the flirtatious conversation where she's had enough time to really like feel a bit of attraction for you. Because for men and women, attraction is very different. I always say that like for men, it's a light switch. It's either on or off. Instantly we feel attraction. We either like you or we don't. There's nothing you can do about that. Whereas for women, it's more of a volume. They're going to have an initial impression of you based upon your looks and how you carry yourself and the way you present yourself. It's going to be somewhere high or low or whatever, but in general, most women don't really feel much for you. They're neither grossed out by you, but they're neither attracted to you. And over the course of time, through your behavior and how you carry yourself, the way you talk to them, what you say to them, that can either go up or slowly down over time. That's
Okay.
generally how women work. So with the indirect, you're allowing some time for the volume knob to go up before you transition into a flirtatious conversation.
So with the indirect, when you're saying you like have this conversation and then you're saying you kind of go into, hey, I kind of wanted to, I thought you were cute, like after the fact kind of thing. Like you, instead of like just going to direct, you do a little indirect and then you go into direct.
Okay, and that's why this is an art form, and that's one way to do it. However, that's a little bit, I would say, like
And awkward.
not crass, but it's wonky, it's awkward. A smoother way to do it is when she says something or you ask something that will allow you to get into something more direct, right? So let's say, for example, you're asking her about the milk, right? And she tells you something, but you hear an accent. You might say, "Oh, where are you from?" "I hear an accent." She'll say, "I'm from Colombia." I'm like, "Oh my God, I love Colombia, but they are dangerous. I got to watch out for you." Right? Now I'm turning it into a little bit more flirtatious, but I'm using something she said, turn it into something more flirtatious. I'm saying, "I really like Colombian women, but they're dangerous. So I have to be careful with you." That is very directly flirtatious right there. That's not something you would say to your boss. It's not something you would say to your teacher or a coworker. It's something you'd say to someone that you are attracted to, you think might be attracted back to you. And that where you can begin that kind of like flirtatious conversation. That might allow me to go into a story of when I visited Medellin and Bogota and what it was like there and how like feminine the women were and how they know how to treat men, but they're so vicious. Many of them have a boyfriend. And then I said, "Wait, you have a boyfriend?" And she says, "No, I don't." Okay, okay, good. Because I don't want to find out about this later. Whatever. Right. And so you're making it more
Uh,
flirtatious as the conversation goes on. All off of a conversation about milk.
So,
this
so this
so
intentional flirting is some people just do that naturally. Do you find that hard for
Yeah.
some of your clients to pick that up? Is that somewhat difficult
It's
for some people to be able to do that?
Of course it is because many men don't, and including women, many men don't feel attractive. They don't feel like they are deserving of an attractive woman in their life, somebody who is attractive. They don't feel like a sexual being. And that's where inner work comes in. So it's not just like theatrical techniques that I'm teaching them on how to do pickup and talking to women in conversation. There's also an inner game aspect of this where you genuinely need to feel like you are a prize, you're a catch, and that any woman that's talking to you is lucky to meet you. That's something that narcissists have in the bag, is they genuinely feel like they're God's gift. But we want to utilize that without the abuse, right? We want to feel like we genuinely are a catch for women. Because if you walk up to a woman and you don't believe that you are absolutely an amazing catch for her, you are going to come off super awkward and uncomfortable. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's also a feedback loop. The more you get rejected, the worse you're going to feel about yourself. And it's okay, I guess I'm not a catch to keep getting rejected. Right? You keep getting rejected because your marketing sucks. You're presenting a product as though it's not a good product. That's part of the whole, like, a woman's going to make an initial opinion on you based on your looks and how you carry yourself. There's not much we can do about our height, how we look, besides going to the gym, maybe. But if we're presenting ourselves as though we know we're a catch, we're much more likely going to be building attraction in that conversation than the guy who's trying to play it safe and looking for her to show that she likes him. Because women are not going to show that if you're being all awkward about it. You need to act. You need to act like you deserve her, like you are a catch.
Yeah.
So there's essentially two questions that guys must be able to answer in order to feel like they have permission to walk up and be confident to women. One is, why would that woman who has her choice, and lots of men say so, women have lots of options, especially with online dating now. Like, why would she choose you over any rich guy, better looking guy with more game, more popular guy, whatever? Why would she choose you? And why would she choose you as a long-term committed partner? If you don't have answers to those two questions, you will never feel permission. You will never have confidence in approaching women. And it's better for you to have intrinsic qualities that never change no matter what happens. Let's say you lose your job, you'll still have that quality. Let's say you lose your leg, you'll still have that quality. It's okay to have qualities about yourself that are extrinsic that could be removed, but it's much better to place the foundation of your confidence on intrinsic qualities, such as, I know how to treat a woman, or I'm loyal guy, or I know how to make women feel emotions, or I know how to turn an adventure, even in horrible circumstances like getting stuck in an elevator. A woman's going to have a great time no matter what with me, no matter where we're at. Or like, I'll protect her from anything. I'll absolutely kill anything that tries to hurt her. Stuff like that. Like, these are things that women would value in a long-term relationship.
Oh, wow. I have learned so much. This has been so great.
Yes.
Yeah, this has been great, Dan.
You've made us smarter. Dan.
Yeah, for sure.
I've just
For
been here
Yeah.
coach the whole
Thank you.
time you're talking. So
I think everyone needs an infield person to go with them. I think that's such a
Right.
great idea. I don't know why there's not more dating coaches like that.
So we're going to recommend that all of our listeners move to Miami.
Yeah.
Hey, I travel. I can
True
go
that.
to their city, man.
Oh.
That's part of the service. They can hire me to fly out and I can work with them in person. I just got back from Atlanta where I work with client.
But you don't
In
want to.
fact, he's an older gentleman. He's 68 years old.
how did it go? How did he
Wow.
do?
He picked up two women that were half his age.
No, wait. What about rejection? What do you tell them? I mean, these guys they're out there doing this, they're out there trying, and they're just getting rejected. What do you tell those guys?
Okay, so rejection is a part of the process. No matter how good you get at this game, you're always going to get rejected. Oftentimes, it's really not your fault. Sometimes it is, though, but usually if it is your fault, it's because you messed up with the opener. You messed up with the marketing. It's got nothing to do with you as a human being or you as your value as a person, because she doesn't know you from a hole in the wall. She's just going along with the very first presentation that you made. Some women are just totally unreceptive to being cold approached in field or online. So I would say that it's okay to get rejected. It's perfectly fine. Just like a professional poker player, most of his hands are going to be folds. He's not going to play every hand that he gets dealt. And even if he plays perfectly, he's still going to lose sometimes. It's a part of the process. It's okay. You don't take it personally. If I have $1,000 bottle of wine and I pour it in your cup and you spit it out all over the floor because you hate it, that it doesn't make the bottle of wine any less valuable, because someone who knows wine is still going to purchase it from you for $1,000.
That's
There
valid.
you go. Well, there you go.
Yes. Excellent.
All right.
Dan, thank you so much.
Dan, yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much. This was awesome.
Thank
We really
you.
My
appreciate it.
pleasure.
Hey, Dan, how can everybody find you and get a hold of you?
They can find me on my website at matchmakingmiami.com. And my email is dan@matchmakingmiami.com.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. We really appreciate you. And guys, listen, Dan talked about his YouTube channel. We still have one.
From YouTube. Yep.
You can still go and find us on YouTube. Also on Instagram at Dating Made Simple. And also check out our website, datingmadesimpleijd.com. That's, you know what that's for?
I do. It's just dinner.
It's just dinner. So Dating Made Simple, IJD. And check it out. We got lots of cool stuff up there. This has been really fun. Macy, thank you
Yeah.
for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Bob, thank
My
you.
pleasure.
It's been great. Guys, and listen, Dan's giving you a lot of points today. Let me give you one more. Just go have fun out there, would you?